Hello, good morning. This is Rob from Giraffe, and today we're going to be continuing our series on dairy production systems used throughout the world. If you remember, we've outlined the three dairy production systems, and we've gone more in depth in high output dairy production. Then we discussed medium input, medium output, or also called the traditional autumn catting system with John Kelso. We elaborated on that a bit when we discussed dairy farming in Oman in the Middle East and hot climates. And today, finally, we're going to be talking about grass-based dairy farming. So let me share my screen and we'll go from there. So grass-based dairy farming, what's in the name? It's also called low input, low output dairy production, or New Zealand style dairy farming. The reason for that New Zealand style name is that's where it was originated and developed. New Zealand was as far away as you could get from its main home market, which was originally the UK. And New Zealand produced butter and milk powder and dairy products for the UK for years, until the UK joined the European Union, and then New Zealand lost that market. New Zealand had always been very based on grass-based production because they have a real good competitive advantage in growing grass. But when they lost that UK market and had to find other markets throughout the world, they doubled down and really improved their efficiency based on that competitive advantage of being able to grow lots and lots of grass and have a very mild temperate climate. So, low input system, what's it all about? Well, as we said, it's all about grazed grass, and the performance emphasis is on the yield of milk solids per hectare. And in particular, they talk about milk solids because they sell milk solids. You can't sell water. You can sell milk solids. And it's not about production per cow. Because your production is based on grazed grass, they measure the performance for every hectare of grazed grass. As we said, it's grazed grass, so your production profile is seasonal. Grass does not grow equally all year round. You calve the cows down in the spring. You milk them off grazed grass through the spring, summer, and autumn, and then dry them off in the winter when the grass growth is 0 or negative. It does require that grazing platform to be available to the cows because they need to be able to walk out there and graze the grass themselves and convert it into low-cost milk. It, in theory, has a high fixed capital requirement because you have to have all that grazing land available. Although you could argue you don't need to own it, you could rent it. It has a very low working capital requirement because all you have is cows, grassland, a milking parlour, and perhaps a small tractor and a quad bike. So the amount of money you have invested in depreciating assets is very low. Everything's in cows, land. Profitability-wise, is it the most profitable system? Well, here in the UK, most of the benchmarks rate it as the second most profitable after a high input, high output system. Although, as John Kelso pointed out, that's not very fair to the medium input, medium output system. And we discussed Oman, and we discussed how, at the end of the day, it's down to your milk requirement, the milk demand profile, the climate you're in, whether it's a very hot, inhospitable climate or perfect temperate climate. And also the key is your management ability. Can you manage a high input, high output system? It needs very high levels of management, but solely when it comes to grassland management. So grass growth, and more importantly, the utilization of that grass by your cows, keeping high quality grass in your cows, in front of your cows all the time, and keeping them well fed. The only other time and the only other skill you have is very focused breeding season. Because you're following a seasonal grass growth profile, you need as many cows as possible calving down in a very tight calving pattern to utilize that grass that's grown through the season. Other considerations when you're investing in dairy farming, well, I discussed before about having a robust, flexible, and simple system. And certainly low-cost production ticks all those boxes. Your high output system is fantastic, but it needs a very high level of technical management. People talk about it being the Formula One car of the dairy production world, and that is absolutely true. Whereas a low-cost system is at the opposite end of the scale. Yeah, you need good grassland management and good breeding management, but otherwise you get a very robust and flexible and simple system. Capital investment, we've mentioned all your capital is invested in cows and land. You've maybe got a small tractor and a motorbike. So you've got a low amount of money invested in depreciating assets that need repairs and maintenance. And scalability wise, because of that simple management and simple label requirement, it's much more scalable than a high input, high output system. Which system is best? I think we've already covered that. It all depends on your milk market, the milk demand profile. It depends on your climate. Are you in a very hot climate, or are you in a brilliant temperate climate that's perfect for grass growth? And it also depends on your management ability. So you've got a lot of factors to consider. But if you've got the right temperate climate, then I would suggest the only way to produce milk is from a New Zealand style grass-based dairy production system. Thanks very much for now. I'll be publishing this on LinkedIn this week. Any questions, just put them through to me on a private message, or let's get a discussion going on the video.